Hey friends, in today's video I want to talk about the new exotic scout rifle, the Wicked Implement. The initial community reception is that it's terrible, and I can't say I disagree, but it does have some builds that take advantage of it. Everyone's eyes immediately go to 180 RPM, and that's a 1 second time to kill for scout rifles, which is terrible compared to other scout rifles, or even other legendary 180 RPMs, which can get the box breathing perk, which trims the TTK down from 1 second to 0.67. Something like Mida Multi-Tool is 200 RPM, which is 0.9 time to kill. And then we have the 150 RPMs like Jade Rabbit or Polaris Lance, which come out to a 0.8 time to kill. So by comparison, it's like you shouldn't even use this if you're trying to compete. However, there are some builds that mitigate its weaknesses and try to turn it into something worth using. And that's what today's video is about. I'm not saying this thing is incredible, but it does have an optimal build, and I think I found it. When you try to build into it, initially you think Mask of Bakris, right? Because it recently got buffed so that after your dodge, you get a small damage bonus that does allow Wicked Implement to 3-tap. But the problem is, Titans exist, and Titans are really strong, and Titans have 10 resilience. So the chance of running into a Titan these days, really, really probable. So, if Bakris is out, then that means I have to go Radiant Dodge, because Radiant Dodge is a slightly bigger percent. And that does allow you to 3-tap Titans. Not saying the Bakris build is bad, you should definitely take it for a spin. I recommend going Fusion Rifle or some sort of arc weapon. If you can get a 3-burst sidearm on controller, that's pretty ideal. But a 2-burst on MNK feels really good. Enhanced Hipfire Brigand's Law feels really good. And if you truly hate sidearms, you could go Aikilos SMG, although it doesn't have target lock. Unlike No Survivors, the new Dungeon Solar SMG from this season. So, I built in to Acrobat Dodge. It's right here. And since I'm using Acrobat Dodge anyway, and since I'm using Ember of Torches so that my knife makes me radiant so I can 3-tap, I run the heavy weighted knife and Arthrus's Embrace. There's another exotic that has a synergy with this, and that would be the Monte Carlo. Trying to save some editing here. So by landing hits, it cools down the melee. But it's crazy that the scout rifle kind of does the same thing. On the 4th shot, it's a slowing shot, and if you get a precision kill with that slowing shot, it creates a stasis shard that tracks you down like Liam Neeson from Taken. So the problem with this perk is that it's a 180 RPM, right? You're always going to kill in 4 shots, and it's going to be slow. And you also have to have a second target who pretty much slides out of cover and gets hit by that slowing shot to where they're as good as dead, but sometimes not the case because they're using a high impact pulse against this, and even though you hit them first, they still might trade out with you even if they're slowed. So yeah, it is a recipe for disaster unless you're damage boosted by a Radiant Knife or a Radiant Dodge. So I would call this Monte Farlow. I'm leaving some space for people to unsubscribe. Alright, for those of you who somehow stayed with me here, let's read Arthrus's Embrace. By landing rapid precision hits, I think it's like 4, it gives you a strengthened knife, which gives you 5 tiers of strength. So this tier 5 strength is now tier 10 after landing some hits. So the way the gameplay loop is I dodge and get Radiant, I have better cooldown because utility kickstart, better grenade cooldown, and then Reaper procs. So after I get the kill, an orb falls on the floor. If I pick up the orb, I get a little bit of health back, a little bit of dodge back. I guess I could fit this, Absolution. And I get a slight damage bonus to my solar weapon, which is No Survivors. And I'll get into that one in a second when we talk about fragments. So if I get the 3-tap, look for the 4th, have my strengthened knife, I just throw the knife randomly and it sometimes gets a kill. If you look on the screen, here's an example of that. Okay. After listening to my friends Cool Guy and Jingleheimer, I would say that the best way to use Arthrus is to try to make it so that the second bounce of the knife is the one that is tracking towards the target. Never try to hit the target with the first bounce, always try to hit it with the second bounce. And the way you can accomplish this is by throwing it at the floor or the ceiling or some adjacent wall where it's going to bounce twice. That second bounce is like literal aimbot, and I am not exaggerating. It might be too strong. Then finally on the helmet, I have Harmonic Siphon so that my solar weapon doubles, drop an orb of light, and can help me manage my cooldowns. My chest piece, unflinching, unflinching. On my arms, I have Heavy-Handed, which means a melee kill creates an orb of power, which can again start the engine. So let's look at the fragments, and then I'll get into my energy weapon. Radiant has a longer duration. That makes sense. Restoration, that comes from my healing grenade. Also, we have Ember of Benevolence. So if I heal my teammate or give them Radiant, I have a better dodge cooldown. But also, if I res a teammate in Trials, I get Restoration. So like think the end of a round I just win, I go res my teammate, I pick up an orb, and I'm pretty much starting the next round off with another dodge. The other fragment is Ember of Empyrean, which means my solar weapon kills extend Radiant and Restoration. So this can turn around and get real ugly for the opponents if you do it all right. You hit the Radiant dodge, you get your 3-tap, you just gamble that knife down the lane, maybe it kills, maybe it doesn't, and you swing 2 people with no survivors. Discord is up, refills after kills, target lock goes crazy. Target lock might seem at first glance like a bad perk with this build, but you don't always have Radiant up, and it's a nice buffer against overshields, healing rifts, etc. And it just works because it's solar. But if you wanted to go crazy, Bug Out Bag, I believe, does have Swashbuckler, as well as the Borrowed Time from Gambit, and it's double EXP Gambit this week. So if you really want to go for that, I think that might make even more sense on this build. But I just overall like this gun better. I like the feel, the aesthetic. I feel like I can hit my shot with it. So it agrees with me, and I'm going to build into it. But if you look on D2 Foundry, you can see that you can trim that TTK down to 0.58. And your eyes might go to some perk like Collective Action, which means if I collect a Stasis Shard or one of those Restoration Fire Sprite things, you get a damage bonus. And you could argue that that makes more sense, right? Because not every gunfight is going to be 8 bullets long. Sometimes they might be weak, and it might only take 3 bullets of collective action, but 4 bullets of the target lock. I wouldn't get into it that much. I just think you go to target lock. It's borderline a non-decision anyway on these guns. It's an artificial extension, and you don't have to do anything except hit your shot. But if your aim is shaky, maybe try collective action or go for Swashbuckler. Or a different solar weapon altogether. Anyway, I have some Trials clips at the end of this video that show me just going for trick shots and ultimately having fun in Trials and not really caring about the result. And that is kind of how I play Trials now. As soon as I get my Flawless, I'm just mentally checked out because it's always going to give me somebody to carry, and I'll just take my 50% win-loss ratio and get some adepts here and there. I genuinely feel like losing kind of like helps my drop percentage. I've gone on some crazy win streaks and haven't even gotten anything for it. And to be honest, this meta really sucks dealing with Antaeus Titans around every corner. So yeah, I would rather just like not be mentally checked into the game and enjoy myself a little bit more by going for some trick shots. So I hope you find this build enjoyable. It's a lot of fun to pilot, but I think ultimately I am going to delete this scout rifle to save some vault space, because while Arthur's Embrace has some really broken moments, it's not for me. I'm more of a Gemini Jester kind of gunslinger with Gunpowder Gamble, and I'm eventually going to add a Adrenaline Junkie bow to this. I have it in the vault, I just haven't got the perfect roll yet. Bungie just said they're adding a new solar bow next season, so I want to see what those perks are. If it has Swashbuckler, I think that's going to be better than Adrenaline Junkie. Is there anything else I did not mention with this build? No, I think we're good. I will say that On Your Mark is very useful because it gives you fast handling. So what you can do is tap them once with the slow shot, jiggle into cover, and pop out with a Discord boosted target lock SMG. I guess the thing to say is that with Emperor of Empyrean, this goes crazy when you have the healing grenade and the radiant. You can completely reverse around. but you also don't have to feel tied to solar if you don't want to run this fragment. I was running the Hero's Burden SMG, and it was just ripping people up in the footage. And the Hero's Burden has Skulking Wolf, which does let you play off the radar if you're very aggressive and get low health when you win the duel. Anyway, friends, I hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely check out the footage. I hit some wild shots, and I will see you in the next one. Hold my beer. Wombo combo. Rift. Couldn't finish that sentence. Why did that other guy look like a pig? What happens if I pop? Oh shit. Oh, perfect timing. Let's backpedal.